Hi, my name is Sage, and in these end times, I want to share with you some of my favorite scriptures so that you can read it yourself and have some hope and restore you to Jesus. So, starting with my first, number one, top 10 of all time favorite scripture, Ecclesiastes 3:2. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to unpluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. This is one of my favorites because for me personally, I deny a lot of negative feelings. And finding this scripture as I was reading through the Bible in a year reminded me that there is a time for the negative things. There's a time for war. There's a time for even hate in the Bible, which is crazy to think that that is in the book of truth. But there's a time for all of these things. And I think it just reminds you that God is a validating of emotions, but he also is a God that is reminding you of what season you're in. And sometimes you're not in the season that you think that you're in. And also just the release of like, it doesn't always have to be perfect, because there's a time to mourn. There's a time to dance. There's a time to weep. There's a time for everything. God makes time for everything, and his timing is not the same as ours. And I just love that reminder, because sometimes I need to remember there's a time to speak. Anyway.